We start with this one. Hulk Hogan got absolutely booed out of the building on Raw's Netflix debut. A warm California welcome for the father of Hulkamania. Jimmy, are they booing me, brother? His face said as he ironically thanked the fans for sticking with him over the years. So how did Hulk Hogan go from being the face of an industry to the uncle that nobody invites to Christmas because of the things he says? How did he go from slamming Andre the Giant and starring in his own cartoon show to being removed without a trace from the WWE for 3 years? That's what we're here to find out today, brothers. You're watching Sportskeeda Wrestling, and today we're looking at the real reason WWE fans are booing Hulk Hogan. Well, as we said at the top of the video, where do you start? Hulk Hogan was the face of WWF for most of the 80s and 90s. He was a mainstream star and a pop culture phenomenon. He had products named after him, reality TV shows, high-profile lawsuits. He's made movies. He was Vince McMahon's biggest star, then he left him for the competition, then he came back, then he left him for the competition again, then he came back again. A two-time WWE Hall of Famer, a founding member of the New World Order, and a former 12-time world champion. He beat every villain there was to beat. Really, there isn't much the Hulkster hasn't done, and he arguably did it before anyone else, at least on the same scale. What would make fans turn against such an icon? Some have argued it's because Hogan endorsed WWE fellow Hall of Famer Donald Trump to become president of the United States. But there's a problem with that theory. The Undertaker endorsed Donald Trump too. He even had the president on his podcast. And when Taker came out on his motorcycle to congratulate Rhea Ripley after her women's title win on the same episode of Raw where Hogan was booed, he was welcomed with cheers. So, political views aside, there are plenty more reasons for WWE fans to boo Hulk Hogan. Could it be that fans have just gotten sick of him over the years? He's been around so often and for so long that he's managed to get what some refer to as go-away heat. And that's the only reason? Well, it's not that simple. For example, the fans cheered Jesse the Body Ventura at the return of Saturday Night's Main Event in December 2024, and he's been around longer than Hogan, though maybe not as often. In fact, so few top stars from WWF's golden era are still alive, and well, you'd think that the fans would be delighted to see Hogan, the biggest star of said golden era, still tearing his shirt and cutting promos, along with Jimmy Hart, who was doing a great job of waving that flag, if we do say so. But they weren't. We guess that this reaction might have something to do with Hulk Hogan's behavior over the last 2 decades or so. He's not exactly been a distinguished elder statesman for the pro wrestling industry, and this is where we're going to start using the word allegedly quite a lot. Familiarize yourselves with its meaning and get ready to get weird. Hulk Hogan has allegedly been a little economic with this thing called the truth over the years, with a plethora of supposed lies ranging from the music industry exploits to actual time travel. There are a ton of videos on this already from several names in the industry, but we'll still go through a couple here just so you get a rough idea of what we're talking about and because it's funny. After this, you're going to be wondering how Mr. America even managed to pass that lie detector test on SmackDown all those years ago. Maybe he really wasn't Hulk Hogan. Okay, so Hulk Hogan allegedly once claimed that he played bass for metal band Metallica before his wrestling career took off. This was disproven by Metallica founder and drummer Lars Ulrich, who claimed they'd never worked with Hogan, noting that even if they did, it would have been under a different name. During a 2012 edition of the Howard Stern Show, Ulrich said, "That one, when that showed up 2 or 3 months ago, I was scratching my head over that one. Unless he went by, I don't know, Hulk Hogan, I don't know enough about him. I'm not a huge wrestling fan, unless he went by like his Christian name or something, and I don't know if anybody knows what his Christian name was. Dave Smith or something, if there was a whole thing that we had him under a different name, but I certainly have no recollection of doing anything with quote Hulk Hogan, end quote. That one, I was scratching my head on that one too." Another Metallica co-founder, James Hetfield, said when asked in an interview with Noisy, quote, "Huh? Definitely not. But anyway, it's a good fit, yeah? He makes us look very small," end quote. Hogan has also allegedly claimed to have wrestled 400 days in 1 year, something he's gone into detail on a number of interviews, including on the Joe Rogan Experience, explaining it with some convoluted story about the time difference related to traveling between Japan and the United States. Whatever way you try to spin this, it is impossible. There are only 365 days in a year. There is no possible way to extend that to 400, no matter how much international travel you do. Hogan also allegedly claimed to have been the original choice to play Randy the Ram Robinson in the Darren Aronofsky film The Wrestler in 2000. 2008, with the Hulkster claiming that he turned the part down before it went to Mickey Rourke. This claim was disproven by Darren Aronofsky himself, who claimed Mickey Rourke was always the first choice for the part of Randy the Ram Robinson. Rourke would take home a Golden Globe for his performance. Aronofsky tweeted in 2012, quote, "For the record, the role of the wrestler was always Mickey Rourke. It was never Hulk Hogan's as he claimed on Howard Stern." End quote. Hogan's filmography includes 1989's No Holds Barred, 1993's Mr. Nanny, 1996 Santa with Muscles, and 1991's Suburban Commando. There's also Rocky III, to be fair, the 5th best Rocky movie. That's something. Hogan also allegedly once claimed to have gotten a ringside seat for a Make-A-Wish kid following a meet and greet at SummerSlam 1992 in London, England. This was also proven to be false, as history will remember that Hulk Hogan was not on the card for SummerSlam 1992 or allegedly anywhere near the United Kingdom at the time, though Hogan has done his fair share of charity work over the years. Hulk Hogan also allegedly once claimed that The Undertaker hurt his neck at Survivor Series 1991 during a spot where Taker hit Hogan with a tombstone piledriver on a steel chair. However, this was proven to be false by several industry names, including Undertaker, who watched the match back and noticed that Hulk Hogan's head never even connected with the chair below. Other industry figures have also broken down the spot in YouTube content exposing Hogan's injury claims. In a 2023 interview with ESPN, Taker said, quote, "I was like, Terry, I watched it back. Your head never hit." He was like, "Well, brother, what it was, you had me so tight that when we came down, I had nowhere to move, and that's what jammed my neck because I couldn't move at all. And at that point, I was like, okay, I know what you're all about, and that's all I needed." End quote. Hulk Hogan also allegedly claimed that Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll himself, was a Hulkamaniac. This was proven to be false, given that Hulkamania didn't take off until the mid-1980s, and Elvis passed away in 1977. Hogan didn't even wrestle in Memphis until 1979. Hogan similarly allegedly claimed to have outdrunk John Belushi following WrestleMania 2, which took place in 1986. John Belushi had already died in 1982, 4 years before this, so either the Hulkster was mistaken or he was doing some serious partying that night. He also allegedly claimed to be the first choice to endorse the George Foreman grill prior to George Foreman, meaning that it would have been called the Hulk Hogan grill, which would eventually become a thing anyway, a thing that very few people bought. Hogan claimed he missed the call for the lean, mean grilling machine because he was picking his kids up from school. Is this true? Who knows? For the sake of Hogan's wallet, we hope it's a lie, because the George Foreman grill reportedly earned Foreman over $200 million. Hogan had this to say about a blender he endorsed instead. He said, quote, "Basically $550 million later, net value before profit, George got the lean, mean grilling machine, and I got a blender that when you put AA batteries in it, it would fart and then turn off." End quote. Hogan also allegedly claimed to be the first person to see main event star quality in Kevin Owens shortly after KO signed with NXT. This was proven to be false for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Kevin Owens had already been an indie circuit and Ring of Honor mainstay. He was world champion for most of a year. People already knew who he was, they had to have, or he wouldn't have been signed to WWE to begin with. Another reason this could be false was that Kevin Owens was signed to NXT in 2016, and Hogan had been removed entirely from WWE TV and briefly WWE history on July 24th, 2015. He would be gone from WWE programming and even the Hall of Fame until 2018. Why, might you ask? Well, buckle up, buddy, because you're about to learn. We're going to tread very lightly in a section of the video that we're going to call, quote, "the unpleasantness," end quote. Allegedly, Hulk Hogan was taped having, shall we say, relations with the wife of his best friend and radio DJ, Bubba the Love Sponge. You hear that? That's the sound of your happy Hulkamania memories evaporating before your eyes. The tape was posted publicly by a website called Gawker. Don't look it up. Hogan, real name Terry Bollea, then sued the pants off them, pun not intended. But hey, speaking of happy accidents, Hulk Hogan came out of the whole thing a lot richer, taking Gawker to the cleaners in court for $140 million in total damages. Just to be clear, it wasn't really the tape that got Hulk Hogan fired and removed from WWE history. It also didn't earn him the ire of the WWE fans. It was more what Terry Bollea said when it was all said and done. We're not going to repeat what Hogan said at the tape's conclusion. You can look it up for yourselves if you want to know. But let's just say there were some racial slurs used with regards to the partner of his daughter Brooke. These comments were quite shocking and damaged Hogan's reputation irredeemably. Think the Michael Richards meltdown, but instead of a comedy club, it's a tape with another man's wife, and instead of Kramer, it's Hulk Hogan. Hogan has done a lot for the wrestling business, as we've said. It arguably wouldn't be what it is today without him, as we've said. But just like so many you could say this about, he's a tad controversial in the world we know today, putting it lightly. Rumor has it WWE is considering making Hogan regular on TV to promote his Real American beer. But WWE needs to be careful with how they handle this, and that doesn't mean dressing Hogan up in a pirate costume and showing that he's friends with Titus O'Neil. In the public eye, the lines between fiction and reality are sometimes blurred, even more so in professional wrestling, given that the whole industry was built on just that. People take things literally, and that includes wrestling angles. That's what kayfabe is. Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter's serendipitously titled Real Americans run in the early 2010s is evidence of just that. Their gimmick was built on right-wing stereotypes and inflammatory language, and the fans bought it. So much so that Dutch Mantell, the man behind Zeb Coulter, had to publicly state that his rhetoric was fictional and simply part of a storyline. That was in 2013 with two much smaller names. So if you don't think it could happen with Hulk Hogan on a bigger scale with real-life controversy added, you might want to think again. Whatever happens, WWE is going to make a lot of money, but that's going to happen with whoever they decide to feature on their shows because it's what they do these days, it seems. But Hulk Hogan is a living reminder that their road to success was paved with controversy. This is true of WWE and of professional wrestling overall, even though it's cleaned up its act in recent years. So don't forget to eat your vitamins and say your prayers, Hulkamaniacs. And that's it for another one. Are we right or are we completely wrong? And everyone loves Hulk Hogan. Let us know down in the comments section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling to see more content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time, brother.